All right,
What up? Can we just talk about football all day? No. All right.
let's
I'm
go.
still gonna I'm still gonna stand on that if I can. But what's up everyone? Happy Tuesday. I'm just wearing my football jersey because we're 2 days until season starts, so I'm excited. As you guys can see. But I hope everyone enjoyed their long weekend. Most importantly. We kind of missed you guys. It was weird not doing yesterday's call, but here we are. Um, and yeah, we're gonna be able to dive into this pretty quickly. Expecting more people to come, but after a long weekend, we're not sure. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Aldo, go ahead.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate that. Yeah, and happy to be back from a nice long weekend. We went to an aquarium with a whole bunch of kids, and so that was a lot of work, but it was also a lot of fun. So we enjoyed that. Hope you guys had a good time yourselves. So today we're going to, as always, keep it under an hour, and I'm gonna stick to our structured schedule here. We're gonna go through the intro, view the ecosystem, talk about the main topic, which today we're gonna talk a little bit about rents slash revenue. Very, very important topic to not only talk about, but to understand and implement. And then, of course, we're gonna try to evaluate a deal here live for you guys so you can kind of get an idea of what napkin underwriting is about. And then, of course, we'll open it up for questions and answers. We do have an intimate group today after the holidays. Of course, we expect that. But we're certainly not going to push it past anything that we don't need to if we don't have any many questions or answers afterwards. So anyway, with that said, we'll go ahead and talk about who we are. So Ed, tell us about you.
What's up? As some of you may have seen in the chat, I'm a Chargers fan, meaning I'm from LA. Because I don't think anyone else would be, but that's besides the point. So I'm a realtor out in Los Angeles. Own my own brokerage out here. Have been in real estate for as an agent for about 4 or 5 years now. And kind of just grew up in it. So that's pretty cool. Having that like in-house exposure to the real estate game and really just learning a lot here. So got into multifamily about a year and a half ago, and kind of just ran with it. Joined a lot of different groups, tried to put myself in the right circles, and yeah, here we are, and glad to be here. Contact info is in my name. Reach out if you have any questions or just want to connect.
Love it, love it. Yes, sir. I am Aldo and Cheta, and my partner is not joining us tonight. Will Otis. We're the co-founders of Stoic Holding Solutions, and since we're in the football theme, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about my fan. I'm a fan of the Cardiac Cats. Now that's by default. I didn't really choose them. I basically grew up in Charlotte, and so I kind of had to go for them. And it's been a sad, sad time ever since then. They don't call them the Cardiac Cats for nothing. So, and my partner Will, he is a let me get this right. Let me get this right. He's an Eagles fan. He's a Philly
Yeah.
Eagles fan. Yeah, so he's got something to be happy about here for the last couple of years. I think did they win it last year or the year before? Something like that.
They lost in Super Bowl, but close enough.
I don't watch football, so I don't know. Anyway, so with that said, my Will and I we're actually operators of senior living. We've been in operations for a combined about 25 years in operations and also asset management here in the Southeast. And we're hoping to take our expertise in this. And we're still currently in the industry and working our W-2s. And like many of you freedom chasers, we are chasing freedom out of the 9 to 5 through multifamily real estate. And so with that, we decided to, found this Stoic Holding Solutions about a year ago. And so ever since then, we've just been making a lot of connections, networking, and trying to land our first deal. And yeah, that's who we are. But we want to know about you. So if you're new here to this chat or not, we'd like for you to come up and just tell us really quickly who you are, what you do, what market you're in, and what you're hoping to get out of this community. So if anybody wants to just jump in and shout out your name and who you are, go for it. All right, Kim's at the grocery store. I need some eggs. Can you pick me up some on your way out, please? All right, so if nobody volunteers, we're gonna volunteer someone here. There's been some people that I don't recognize here from previous ones. So somebody's unmuted. Linda, you're unmuted. I'm gonna pick on you because you're not on mute. So tell us who you are. Is she on mute or not? Can't tell. I don't think she's muted. All right. Well, Anna, I'm gonna go to you. You just look like you want to speak. You just look like you want to tell the world about who you are and what you do and what market you're in and what you're looking for and all that good stuff.
So, hello, nice to meet you. Hi, Edward. It's been a while. I'm rejoining. I've been absent for a couple of weeks. So in my day job, I oversee a $15 million annual budget for dedicated to workforce training. I, make sure that the money is allocated to the programs and that I collect their attendance. I'm required to report to the state their attendance hours. So I'm like the fiscal agent for these programs. I negotiate contracts on their behalf, also deal with our internal risk management, legal, procurement, just to get all the contracts in place. So that's my day job. I'm new to multifamily investing. I haven't actually invested. I'm like you. I think you said you are looking for a property. So I decided to go into the Midwest market just because I thought there was more value there for what you can get for your money. So I'm currently trying to acquire or look for properties in Wichita, Kansas. So, that's where I am right now. There's nothing. I'm even considering doing a JV deal. I like the idea of buying and holding and not really, in the syndication, there always seems to be an exit. I like the idea of keeping the property for myself or, like a partner. And so that's my strategy has kind of shifted a little bit away from syndication and more toward acquiring something that I want to keep and hold. I'm not completely, haven't completely navigated away from syndication. I just don't have my team, right? And I think that that's the reason why I started to head into this other direction, because I haven't built or identified the people that are going to be my team, such as I think my talent is suitable for asset management because I'm detail oriented and I'm, meet deadlines and I have that experience of managing people on a smaller scale. I manage a triplex that, I do everything for screening tenants, running their credit checks, collecting their rent, raising their rent, fixing their whatever, responding to whatever, repairs they need at whatever time of night it is. So that just has given me a glimpse of, doing that on a larger scale. So that's just where I am, learning how to underwrite and do just like, I think I'm learning all the aspects of it because I really don't know if I acquire my own property, I think I'm going to need all of those talents. So I've only been doing this for about 3 months. Well, that's my story.
Good. That's pretty good. Hey, listen, I was just going to say when you were describing what you do, I was going to say you sound like an asset manager. So you definitely nailed your superpower in my eyes anyway. So
thank you.
Great. Anna, it's great to have you on here. You're certainly in the right place. We try to teach as much as we can about the basics. And Ed did post a YouTube channel. We have a lot of resources on that YouTube channel. Talk about the basics. Underwriting, even fundraising, etc. A lot of different things that are part of it. So welcome. Glad to have you here.
I have something I want to add because as you guys know, every time someone likes to introduce themselves, I love to kind of dive into what they're talking about a little more. I like the steps you're taking. Like it's awesome how like you really figuring out where you want to what role you want to play and like where you want to like in learning a little bit about everything. Because if anyone remembers the last few calls we've had, I know it feels like forever ago. I always say this, like especially with the underwriting, that should be something everyone knows. You don't have to master it, but you have to know it and understand it. I don't care if you're trying to only asset manage. I don't care if you're trying to only capital raise. I don't care if you're trying to only find deals. I think anyone who wants to sit at the table has to be able to do that at least. I realized that very quickly because if you don't, it's kind of like you don't really know what to challenge, which I think is the biggest part. And two, if you're raising capital, how do you know what you want to like? How do you vouch for what you're trying to raise for if you don't really fully get the whole picture, right?
Right.
So I love that you're trying to learn a little bit about everything. In regarding to the scale thing, and I'm realizing this the more and more I talk to people and meet people and kind of do this, go on this journey as well myself. It's the bigger deals are actually easier.
Are actually easier?
Yes, especially if it's a good deal. Like I've had people tell me, "Oh, it's 100 units. That's okay." Ouch, but like 100 is a good number, right? Like there's 3 digits, so I got excited. But at the end of the day, it gets a lot easier doing those large ones because you have enough. Like you can cut the pie multiple ways, right? If I need someone to do solid cap raise and them into the equation, and I need their help with investor relations, and hey, we are this far away, can you help me out? More people are likely to be interested because they can get more out of it. If you're putting your resources into a deal and owning a small percentage, I'd rather own a small percentage of a big pie because that small percentage is going to be worth so much more in the big picture, right? If I own 2% of a $25 million asset, it's a lot different than 10% of a what? Couple million, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think also to put on the resume is especially early on because we're all trying to learn. Like as much as we're here on this call, like Aldo and I are always learning too. Like everyone in the community is, from Marcel, Trevor, and Victor to the people like the team that talks tomorrow to Peter and I talking on most Mondays. Like everyone's trying to learn and continue learning. So when you have a big property, 100 units, couple hundred units, whatever it may be, you have more hands involved, you're going to be able to have more mentors and people you like, resources you can reach out to in that sense. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, okay, like you just accelerate a lot quicker. Don't get me wrong, I love the 20 to 30, 40 units. I just found those so much more difficult. Just like, great, I need to go find $1 million. Okay, but what can I afford to give up? Not much. I don't have much room on this anymore. Like, how many people are we're gonna have 10 people in it? That's not gonna work. Even 5, it's like, okay, it's getting a little tight here.
Right.
You know? So I think that's a big thing too. As long as you kind of and actually the asset management becomes easier too, ironically, because you have more money available for the resources you need. You hire leasing on-site manager. You hire on-site maintenance, so you have full time. If you're 20 units, you can't afford a full time. That's all that's your budget. Like your whole income's gone off of just one employee, let alone your property management, and which you should have anyway, regardless of the size of it. So these are all very interesting different components to think about too, where the smaller deals don't necessarily mean easier. I'm not saying they can't be on the capital side, but just keep in mind, like I would never put a ceiling on it. One of the first deals I underwrote was 977 units.
Wow.
Did we think about taking it down? Absolutely. We tried pitching it to a few people. I learned more underwriting and not getting that deal than I did from ones I did, like follow through with. So yeah, I say just go through the experiences. Like again, I know I'm going on a tangent, but one thing I was looking at pulling up right now was mixed use. Like, yeah, maybe not everyone knows everything about it. You don't need to. If you see an opportunity, find someone who's experienced it. Like I've underwritten it. I've talked to brokers about it. We submit an offer, and it's very interesting how many different factors there are in it. And it's something that maybe you didn't think about you'd be interested in, but the opportunity presents yourself. You're like, oh, I get it. I know who to go to now, or I have some people who are experiencing this, or I know how to underwrite it, whatever it may be, and you're like, hey, this is a great opportunity, let's take it down. So yeah, long-winded answer, and sorry for the tangent, but I feel like there's a lot of different components there where there's areas of opportunities, which at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, you know. I just want to see everyone on this call 500 units because I think that'd be cool. And then we can go to Puerto Rico together just because that'd be cool too. And I've wanted to go. So there's that. But I'm gonna shut up now and let Aldo continue.
There you go. Thanks for that tangent, Ed. No, I think that was very useful and helpful as well. So
Thank you, Edward.
Yeah, thank you. Always good seeing you.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
all right, awesome. And so then, of course, we have the Multifamily Freedom Chaser community journey. And, you know, a lot of us are in different buckets in here. And of course, the three buckets are the first one being, you know, love what you guys are teaching, but real estate is not for me, or multifamily real estate is not for me. I'm going to go chase freedom elsewhere. Awesome. You go chase freedom wherever fits you. You've got to do you. And of course, the second one is, well, maybe you love everything that you're learning. You love, you know, the whole multifamily real estate investment industry, but you don't want to be a day-to-day operator. So you might want to become a passive investor. But even as a passive investor, it's really good for you to know and understand all the aspects and all of the different levers and variables that go into multifamily real estate investing. Just like Ed was saying, you've got to know, everyone's got to know, at least at a basic level, how to underwrite, or at least know what levers to pull or where to look to ask questions, right? You know, where in the hood you've got to look in order to identify, you know, potential problem or issue. And so that's, you know, one of the things that obviously we do here. And then of course the third one is, hey, love everything you guys are talking about, and I am passionate and excited to be an active day-to-day operator. That's what I want to do. So you know, you're ready to further your level of education and join a mentorship. Here we give you everything we've got for free, but it's not enough to take you to the next level. And so there are some paid partnerships out there, some paid memberships out there that can really help to get you to the next level, as several of the leaders in the Multifamily Freedom Chaser group have done. And to that effect, we have a Multifamily Freedom Chaser Preferred Partners program. And Trevor's going to go over it here in this video, where he talks about all the different programs or the different partnerships that we've had with people, with different mentorships and mentorship groups. And pretty much every single one of these folks have been on an activation Zoom with the Triad on Sundays. And they've also not only interacted with them on Friday, but they've also been through, you know, several of these mentorship groups and programs, and have been vetted by our team. And so we are partnering with them to help give it to you at a bit of a discount. So with that, listen up here.
Multifamily Freedom Chasers family, I have exciting news for you all. We are launching our Preferred Partners program for the community. You as a community member, as a Freedom Chaser, have access to this right now for free. So what is the Preferred Partners program? It is a program designed when you are ready to accelerate your multifamily real estate journey. You are ready to invest in yourself, to level up your education and business building experience. This is the place to go. These are the partners and resources that we have invested into and we use hands-on that have helped us level up in our multifamily journey. So pretty cool. Our preferred partners that are part of this list, it continues to grow, but right now they have over $2 billion of assets under management. Super cool. High-level teams and high-level operating individuals. So let me walk you through this here really quickly. We have Gabe Bowling's real estate training, Mastering Multifamily with Vina Jetty with her educational vault, Rockstar Capital and Robert Martinez, they have several different educational options. If you need mindset and performance coaching, we got Keston Glasgow with Purpose Ways. The Mirror Machine website, funnels, marketing, everything you need there. Self-directed retirement services with Horizon Trust, CRM, an underwriting multifamily course with Ken Gee himself. And then if you don't have the funding, but you're ready to accelerate your multifamily journey and invest in yourself and invest in your business, we have DEC Global Enterprises where you can get no interest funding to fund those type of investments. So take advantage of the Preferred Partners program of the Multifamily Freedom Chasers, and let's continue our chase for freedom together.
And then, of course, this is our ecosystem here with Sunday's activation soon with Marcel, Trevor, and Victor Into the G, where they talk to all of these celebrities in the multifamily investment space to get you activated for the week. And then, of course, we take action with the broker talks with Ed and Pete, and on Monday nights. That is alternating Monday nights now, correct? That is every other Monday night. Am I right, Ed?
Yeah, but we'll finalize that. You guys will find out emails and calls and stuff.
I guess so.
So, and also football starting. So
Also football starting. So priorities. And then, of course, on Tuesday nights, we have Ed, myself, and Will. And we talk about Napkin underwriting, how to quickly tell if your deals are good or not. And then on alternating Wednesdays, we have the Miles family talking about the debt industry and the current state of the debt market, and on alternating Wednesdays at 8. And then, of course, the Armada REI group on the other Wednesdays at 8:30, and they talk about the different elements you need to embark on your journey of multifamily real estate investing. And I'm pretty sure they're coming up tomorrow night, so you won't want to miss them.
Yep.
Our contact info here. This is our email. These are our emails, so feel free to contact us with any questions that you may have, or help with underwriting, or anything else that has to do with the multifamily investment process. All right, and so with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Ed here to talk about rents and revenue. So Ed, you let me know if you even if you want to see that T12 or not, but go ahead, man, and take it.
I'll share my screen, and I kind of want to go into what we were what I mentioned earlier. Let me just pull it up one sec. Off the bat, does anyone have any questions regarding what, like, rents and revenue and in general before I start? No? Cool. That makes it easy. All right. So I like going off of this one. I forgot I'm not sharing my screen yet. This is loading. Cool. You guys can see, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So a big part of underwriting anything, and specifically what we look at on day to day, is knowing what their income and the rents and the revenues look like. Most of the time there's two ways you're gonna get this information. One is through rent roll or the T12. Ideally, you have both. Now, if you're going direct to seller, I'm going to give you a fair warning. It's not always going to be as pretty and clean as if it were listed online. You'd be surprised how long the process is and how many attempts and like loose ends need to be tied up and like things need to be presented properly when an agent gets involved with a seller that you won't necessarily see if you're going direct to seller. So keep that in mind if that's your strategy. Am I saying it's a bad idea? No, I think the reward is higher, but I think the upfront work is higher as well. Just because you have to do a little more digging, you may not have everything, you don't know if it's accurate, a little more of a headache of a process, but the reward could be better because obviously it's off market, right? So, for example, with this one, this is the mixed use one I was mentioning. So you're going to see some things that make this a little crazy, but it makes it fun for us to discuss. You have your rent, loss of lease, rental income. and your vacancy. So most of the times what you see on the T12, more so than the rent roll, is when you see gross scheduled rent, this is what they think their market rent is for the unit as is. This isn't anything done, this isn't anything fancy, this is what we expect it to be. When you reduce loss to lease, that's, hey, this is what we are leaving on the table, essentially. What that means is rent should be 1,600, we're getting 1,450. Add up all the difference in your units, and that's what you get. Vacancy, self-explanatory. Throughout the, usually that's just your overall 1 year vacancy. Now, this is a line you're going to see an area of opportunity if it's too high, unless there's a good reason. So year one, keep this in mind as well. Your vacancy is going to be the highest it's ever going to be if it's a high rehab property, because year one, there's going to be a point where all your leases come due, unless you yourself decide to renew them. So keep in mind your vacancies. It's very important to know that, like, hey, I'm not going to be 5% the first year, maybe not even going into the second, but the idea is to be around 3 to 5%. Loss to lease, you want it 0 ideally. Now, is that the most realistic? In some places, it's not. But just so you know what that is as well. Collection loss, kind of self-explanatory too. But that's just, hey, we didn't get this money and they left or they evicted or whatever the case is. And you just, it is what it is. And then you have your total rental income. Now, this is a line that throws a lot of people off. And if you know how to read it right, it'll be a lot more clear. Utility reimbursements, if you see this, make sure there's a utilities expense. And if there's no utility reimbursement, but there's no utilities expense, they're doing it wrong. Because one, it's not always going to be 100%, and it's not always going to be the exact number. But also, you still have to show those incomes and expenses, because those are what it is. It's not just, oh, they cancel each other out and no one knows about it, no one sees it. You need to have that in the books so you understand, one, what that income is and what that expense is going out. Because if you change something, if you add something, you had nothing to compare it to, you've kind of like just lost data at that point. So keep in mind, if you ever see utility reimbursements, and sometimes it is divided up between the different types of utilities, so keep that in mind as well. Water, gas, sewer, electric, trash, or whatever it is, it'll be either line by line or all in one like this. Other income, this is one of my favorite things that you can ask a broker when you are on a call with them. What does that entail? Now, if other income is a high release deposit because they messed up the unit, or a high late payment, or high application fees, like, that's not really consistent, and that's why you want to know that stuff. If other income is parking, sweet. You know, that's what you want. Now, am I gonna like rely heavily on that? No, but at least I know that tenants are already aware that's happening. People in that area and the tenant base are open to it, and you can just keep that going or potentially add to it. That would be the plan. Retail income, this is where this one is a little tricky because it's mixed use. This includes your retail spaces. Now, the mixed use is very interesting because of how different the leases work. For this example specifically, without confusing everyone too much, or myself, to be fair, a part of the income, kind of like a waterfall method, a part of the income that the biggest retailer here that occupies the space, CVS, a part of their income after a certain dollar amount, so let's just use easy numbers so I don't confuse anyone. Every dollar they make after $1 million, the landlord, the owners, which would be us in this case, get a couple cents on every dollar after that. So I didn't know that until I saw this deal. I was like, oh, that's cool. I hope the CVS crushes it, right? And these are a part of their negotiations with the lease. And remember, leases on commercial spaces aren't short. Like, no CVS is coming in there saying, hey, I'm going to bounce next year, or hey, you can kick me out next year. There's no way that's happening. These are 5-10 year leases with 5-10 15-year options and a lot of renegotiating. So if you like that part of it, this is very fun to look into. And I'm sharing this because it's an old deal. So if anyone wants to just browse through the documents, feel free, email me and I'll send it to you because it's very fun to look at for me because I'm weird, but whatever. And then you have other income. So it's important to know what that other income is as well, because you have it in two places. Oh, sorry, that's total other income. My bad. So this kind of just summarizes this. So you see how you want to make sure that all makes sense. You add the 454, 787, you have your effective gross income. With all those different components of revenue, like I mentioned, it's like even just the retail income, right? That's reliant on CVS's performance. I wouldn't call that consistent. And that is something they tried, actually, we were made aware of when offering on this deal. They're trying to renegotiate. Like originally, I think let's call it $1 million. Like after $1 million every dollar you get X percentage, they were trying to increase that number to like 1.5, 1.75, because that's just more money they keep. And then down the road, or everything after that, they're paying less out. Because that retail income is huge. That's half your rent almost. So it's definitely a factor in all this. And then here's where it got a little complicated with the retail tenant situation in regards to what the rents were, what the lease situation is. As you can see, they've been there forever and a half. And here's one more thing that's, again, I don't want to confuse anyone, but this is another interesting part. Reimbursement of tax bill. See how many different components, and I know I'm focusing on the mixed use space, but there's some ideas here that you can use in the regular just multifamily space. Like, hey, I'd have never heard of anyone saying divide the property tax bill amongst the tenants. Can it work? I don't know, but I'm crazy enough to give it a shot, right? Maybe not make many friends with that, but I'll give it a shot. And then you just have two very generic here, but you have admin, you have your year options, reimburses on retail space. So it's very interesting how this space works. And again, like we said in the beginning, all those mentioning, like there's a lot of people investing in a lot of different things. Being able to underwrite anything, I like to pride myself in. You bring me any deal and I'll be able to underwrite it. Motel, hotel, conversion, storage space, mobile home park, mixed use, commercial space. I'm game to anything. You know, it's all just numbers to me, as long as I understand what the story is telling. And then you have the fun part with the rents, which we're all familiar with. You have your residential rent roll, and this just tells you where it's at when the lease ends, and very generic there. Now, this is specific to this deal, but it's very interesting in a sense where do you think outside the box when you're looking at a property? How am I going to capitalize on the revenue, capitalize on bringing income in, and what is it going to cost me? For this one, this was all apartments, and these were brand new built, newly remodeled. So the darker squares. The CVS, the Big Ori, and management, ironically, this management property managed the whole building, the units and this. So they manage all this. Now, this basement below is usable space, but the current owners, CVS, wasn't allowing them to use it. But that's potential. They're saying either like a gym or speakeasy or whatever you want to do, jazz club. I don't know. There's many different options with the space, but that's kind of the stuff that they told us. So what do you look at it as? Okay, this is an area of opportunity. Funny enough, Aldo and I were having this conversation before. We don't want to pay for the work we have to do on the value add of a property. Now, I would keep in the back of my mind though, because I agree 100% that all those ones that said that, and I agree. Like if you guys have to do the work for an opportunity, like on a property, don't pay for it on the front end. Like you're already committing time, resources, equity, capital, whatever you want to call it. Like you're doing all that. That's why you're reaping the benefits. Don't pay for that opportunity on the front end more than you need to. There's a small fee. Hey, I might be open to it, but keep that in mind. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Future development air rights. Is anyone familiar with how air rights work and what this technically allows them to do? 5, 4, 3, 2. No, okay. So, what this development opportunity is, they are technically allowed to build another set of units above what they've built so far, above these units. Because remember, this is units here. They're technically allowed to build up here by zoning and because of their air rights. Reason they can't is because CVS isn't allowing them to work on the inside to support the future development. But after X number of years, I can't remember, so I don't want to lie to you guys, they will then be allowed to. See, sometimes just the waiting game is the best way to improve the value of a property. A lot of times sellers may want to do X, Y, and Z and improve the building drastically or improve the, for example, in this space situation, add units. But if you don't, time is an issue and a factor and you can't, well, the new buyer, you have to kind of put that in your window. If they told us 10 years, okay, do I want to sell it after 5? Like we've waited half the time to now give up one of the opportunities that we find so much value in? Maybe not. Or maybe you do and you're like, hey, we're closer to that deadline. The new buyer doesn't have to wait that long. So that these are all areas of opportunity. And I know I got specific with this specific deal, but as you can see, there's a lot of different ways to factor in revenue and rent into a deal. And before we go on too long, because I do want to give some time to test out the napkin again for anyone that's not seen it. Are there any other questions or things that you guys have faced with rent, revenue, areas of opportunities, and what to look for on a T12 or a profit and loss even? I guess not. Although anything you want to add on the rent revenue side besides the complicated thing I just went through?
No, I think the biggest point that you drove home was, the idea of one, understanding what this P&L is saying. Basically, where is all your money coming from? You're gonna want to understand where it's coming from and if it's recurring and if it's gonna happen again next year for however many years to come, because your entire operation is going to be based on how much money you bring in, right? Obviously there's expense control, etc., but you can't expense control to zero, right? So you're always going to have to be pushing your rents and revenue. So having a good understanding where that's coming from is crucial. So no, man, that was great. Thank you for that. I guess now if if we want to just do a quick underwriting of a deal, we can do that. Guess we can open it up to the peoples and see if anybody has a deal that they want us to throw in the napkin real quick. I guess I'll start my share as well, unless you want to drive it.
Oh yeah, I'll start my share.
Let's see. So does anyone have a deal that they want to throw on here, no matter how big or how small? We underwrite them all. All right. Let's see. Pull this up. All right. Well, Ed, do you have one handy? You want to just do that one? Do you want to just do the maybe the apartments or the units? As you're pulling it up, I'm gonna go over this really quickly for those
Well, yeah, I have the pro forma.
Or we could finally do Pete's one that he sent and he keeps
That's
wanting us
true.
to do. Let's see. Okay. 64 unit deal. All right, let's do that one. All right. Things you need for this, So if this is your first time here and you've never seen this calculator before, and put one in the chat, and obviously we'll slide a link in there for you to be able to use it. We built this. It's not perfect. But it it gives us the information that we need. So just let us know. So when you're doing a quick napkin underwriting valuation, you want to, okay, there's Kim. So you want to ascertain the net operating income, right? That's what you want to get from that. Now, where it gets tricky is in the OMs and in the P&Ls that they send you. That is current data. That's not tomorrow's or next year's data, right? And so we know pretty much right off the bat when we purchase an asset that expenses are going to go up by some percentage. Yep, there you go. And so you need to basically adjust for that, because your taxes are going to go up for sure, and your insurance is probably going to go up, especially nowadays. It's probably going to boom and get really high. So among other things, right? You also don't know if your rents are going to drop, or if you're going to have depending on what the asset looks like. This is why it's really important to know and understand your revenue and where it's coming from, right? Because you may have high occupancy but a really high collectibles, which means you're not collecting your money. So anyway, what this is trying to do is trying to make a more educated guess into the future performance of the asset. And so what it does is it uses the current average rents, it uses the current average occupancy, and then it uses an expense percent, what do we call it? Man, I'm blanking out. What do they call that? The expense ratio. Specific expense ratio that you get from debt brokers, etc., on how assets of this class in this market are currently performing from an expense standpoint. And you can pretty much guess 50% for the most part, for anything B class and under. And so those are the inputs that we put to see if right now that is kind of close to the ballpark of what we should be paying for this asset. So let's see. So this 64 unit, the average in place rents are $1,058. It is a 64 unit building. It is currently occupied. Let's see. What is the occupancy on this thing? I'm gonna pull up the rent roll. Okay. Oh, this is lovely. It's denying me access. Thanks, Pete. Let's see. Let's just pretend. Let's pretend it's 90% occupied, right? Whoops. We'll call that stable. 90% occupancy, we'll call it stable. Okay. See if there's any other information here that I might need. Guidance price is somewhere between 7.5 and $8 million based on a 7 cap. So this is probably a C class or in a less busy or desirable area. No, it's 2 miles from Stone Mountain. Okay, that's in that area. So probably, yeah. All right, so they're asking for 7.5 to 8. Well, not $7.50. We're gonna put $7.5 million. Okay. All right. So we put in our average rents, we put in our total units, we put in our current occupancy, and it's going to give us a total income, rents only, of $731,000. we're going to use a 50% expense ratio because that's pretty much accurate across the board. And we're going to get an NOI of $365,000 on this asset. So if we were to purchase this right now, cash money, our returns on this would be the NOI, right? Just the net operating income, because we wouldn't have to pay anything below that, like a mortgage or anything like that. So these would be our returns. This is what's called a cap rate, right? So if we were to buy it right now, $7.5 million cash, our returns or our capitalization rate or a cap rate would be 4.88%, right? We bought it at a 4.88% cap rate. Right. If it were 90%, etc., it could be more. Maybe that's why it's on $7.5 million, etc. Right. And so what this calculator tells you that if you were to buy it at this price, this would be your cap rate at that purchase price at purchase, right? And so there's several different ways to look at cap rates, but one is how much you paid for it off the bat, at purchase, right here, and that's this number. The next one is what is your year one cap rate, which is basically what your cap rate would be or could be after a year of operations, right? After you're increasing your rents, maybe you're tightening up your expenses a little bit, and you can, project what your NOI is going to be for the following year and say, okay, year one cap rate is this much. And it's what most people go by to see if, they have a good deal. And then there's other cap rates that are looked at, of course. So anyway, that's what that is. So if we were to, get this deal right now, we would say, you know what, that's looking a little bit low. That cap rate is looking a little bit low, which means that this offer price might be a little bit high. What can we do about this, right? You can go to them if they're absolutely dead set on $7.5 million. You can try to go the creative route, and that's Ed's department. But if you're going the traditional route and you're trying to get some agency debt, which I would recommend, for maybe like it's floating 6.5 to 7 right now, I think, on probably a 60 to 65% LTV your debt. I mean, you're gonna want to pay for this thing. Your year one cap rate needs to be over 7%. Needs to be over whatever interest rate you're getting your loan at, because otherwise you would be what's called negatively leveraged, right? And so we can try to figure that out here on your average rents. Let's say that the first year you can drive rents. Let's see if this tells us if we can drive rents here and by how much. Let's see. Says you can drive rents for almost $300 on another 19 units that haven't been renovated. So let's say that you can drive your rents. Let's say you can drive your rents $100 for the first year on average, right? Oops, which would put it at, 1158 on 64 units, and maybe you bring up your occupancy a little bit as well. Okay, same expense ratio, etc. You're going in cap rate. That's what's called, not year one cap rate, going in cap rate. It's considered your first year of operations. Is at 5.45, which is not bad. It went up, on this. And so what we want to play around with now is this offer price. So let me pause and kind of go back around and for us to look at the different variables and levers that are being pulled here, right? So your rents and your occupancy are driving your revenue, right? Obviously, you take out your operating expenses using an expense ratio as a ballpark. Again, this is a napkin underwriting, back of the napkin underwriting, right? So it's ballpark. So you use this expense ratio as a ballpark expense amount and gives you your NOI. That then you divide basically into your purchase price and you get a cap rate at that point. Okay. And so then that kind of tells you where you are against the market, etc. So let's say that the offer price on this particular occupancy percentage is closer to, oh, I don't know, 6.5 million. Now we're talking a little bit better, right? And if we make it 6 million, I can make a better case. I can make a better case for this going in cap rate, even at this interest rate. You know, can we get the interest rate a little bit lower? Can we work on some of the pricing here and there? You know, what can we do differently? Right. So if this was the whisper price coming in from them, and this were the cap rate at purchase, and this were the going in cap rate, I would take this deal because it's close enough. It's close enough to where I need it to be for me to start really looking deeper into it, right? And so that's one way to look at it from a purchase standpoint. And then of course you look at the exit side of it, and let's say that we can exit this thing and we can drive rents $300, right? So it would be at 1258, 64 units, and let's say we ended at this stabilized 92%, let's say that we're putting it on here. Now you don't want to go above your, you know, long-term average occupancy on here, but you can see that we've driven NOI. You know, we've also driven, okay, we can get into that later, but basically this cap rate here grows from this cap rate because it's comparing the NOIs against the original purchase price, right? And so that increases, and that's a good thing. In this case, you want the cap rate to increase. And so it brings the sales price to, you know, well, the sales price then is driven by, and here comes another cap rate. It's driven by the market cap rate, right? And so you can get that from your debt brokers or from your, you know, even your seller, your brokers, your deal brokers as well. But I typically try to underwrite about 50 to 100 basis points above where I bought it. So let's say this is a 6.5 or even a 7, because they're quoting me a 7.5, let's say. Or 7. Yeah, let's keep it at 7.5. Okay, and that's what's going to drive my sales price. Right, and then it gives you an upside here. The reason I left it here is because now I want to drive my offer or my pricing to be closer to this 7.5, right? So I want to offer, say, $5.5 million. Whoops. Now we're talking. And if I put it at 5, okay, that's a little bit closer to where I really want it to be, right? So if they were asking for 6, maybe even 5.5, I could come back and say, hey, this really works a lot better for me if I could purchase it at 5 million, right? Because now my purchase cap rate of purchase is even above the interest rate, more so the going in cap rate after year 1, right? So now we're calculating a price here at the end of a 5 or 7 year term, whatever that is. And then that, of course, now gets increased higher than the purchase price, which gives us an upside. So clear as mud. So I'm going to recap really quick once again, just a few of the metrics that I'm going to look at. I know I went through a lot here. And we can do another one on, you know, just the calculator itself and what the plugs are for this and that and the other. But essentially, again, your rates, your rents, and your occupancy drive your revenue. You take an expense ratio, a general average expense ratio of about 45 to 50%, depending on the asset class, and you get your NOI. From that NOI, you can then compare it. You can compare it to what is being asked as a price. And if the cap rate is too low, if it's below the market cap rate by, you know, however much, then you can start talking to them about, okay, what's their flexibility like on this pricing, etc. I can't do that much based on your market cap rates. Here's what I can do, etc., etc. But again, this is a tool for you to just compare quickly against what their asking price is. And if you're close enough, that's when you really take it to an analyzer and really get granular about whether you can pay that price or not, or what price you can pay for that asset. So I'll take a few questions. I know we went a little bit over. It is 9 o'clock, but I'll take a few questions if there are any on this specific deal or calculator. All right. Either we did an amazing job and no one has questions, or we just confused the mess out of everyone, Ed. And I think it could be the latter. No. But yeah, again, so this replay will be played on our YouTube channel. So definitely check that out. And if you needed to go over this, one more time, and we've gone over this actually several times. And they're all in the YouTube channel. So if you want to learn more about this tool, cap rates, we've kind of dove fairly deeply into many of those aspects of what this calculator is saying. So, all right, I'll give you one more chance for a question. If not, we'll just.
And I put the YouTube in the chat. So
perfect. Well, I know that Ed has a draft to go to. Very, very important event. So
it's football time.
That's right. With all of that, guys, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for being a part of this community, and we hope you found some value tonight, and we hope you keep coming. So with that, have an awesome night.